All right, everyone, welcome to Gateway Baptist Church. This is our evening service, and as has been our custom for a little while now, we are dedicating this first 15 minutes or so to the devotional that I have been doing in the book of Genesis. And we've gotten up to the part about the flood. We've been dealing with the flood for a few weeks. And we've gotten past the creation chapters. And so we're in here amongst the waves and the beasts and the eight righteous people who were taken aboard the ark. Now, the other week, you see how compliant people are. How many people still have that with you? Okay. Y'all need one? Yeah. Brother back here needs one. Patrick. I couldn't think of Patrick. I thought of Peter, but I couldn't think of Patrick. Anybody else? One? You have one? All right. This, starting out here, we were looking at Genesis 7 and 8. It's some of the verses here concerning the ark, 6, 7, and 8. Concerning the ark, and I brought my scale model of the ark. Patrick, you didn't get to see that. I'll have to bring it back sometime so you can see it. My model of the ark, and we looked at it and spotted the various kinds of animals that are in it. Now, my ark is different than Noah's ark in an incredible number of ways, but his was made with skill. Mine was invented each step of the way. But he had animals as they were in the beginning after the creation. He had the first of every kind of animal. They're not available to us now today. Most have gone extinct. I forget the exact number, but there is a large number of animals and plants that go extinct every single day. So it isn't unreasonable or unheard of that a lot of those animals are extinct. But they were the beginnings of, let's call them households. They were the beginning of households, of families of animals. You had the canine kind. And we are told that all the dogs on the earth, no matter what kind they are, foxes, dogs, coyotes, everything from your little chihuahua, the chihuahua, all the way up to the Irish wolfhound. All those dogs are the subspecies of a pair of Siberian wolves. Now, that's what the secular scientist does. And I believe it, because I know what the Word of God says, that he started out with the beginning of each kind, and then as time goes by, some by natural different animal species within kinds have been elaborated. Okay, so we have the dog kind, we have the cat kind. God had made probably one feline kind, from which everything considered feline in this world were derivative from that pair of animals. There was the monkey kind, there's the ape kind, and they're different. There is, there's more kinds here. There's the horse kind, this equus, and everything that looks like a horse, sounds like a horse, and acts like a horse is all part of that particular kind. Now that includes horses, ponies, donkeys, mules, of course, which are the product of the female horse and the male donkey. It works the other way too, but you don't get a mule. You get a different animal. And then zebras. So all of those are all part of the horse kind. So mine has an overlap in it because I had a pair of zebras and I had a pair of horses. So in order to come up with enough animals to look like something that Noah may have had, I am stuck with having to use modern type animals. Noah didn't. And we know that he took two of every kind, a male and a female, into the ark. And skeptics like to raise the questions, how was there enough room for all of those different thousands and thousands of species of animals? Well, number one, he took kinds, not species. Speciation is a derivative of kinds. Okay? He created kinds. Bara created kinds as men. They have developed something in this, I guess maybe the 21st century, maybe the latter part of the 20th century. They have developed a study they now call baromorphology, which is a study of created kinds. And there is a professor or two over here at Truett McConnell College who were part of that project for Ken Ham's group up there, the AIG. Answers in Genesis. There we go. That cell kicked into. But I wrote up here, and again, none of this is original. I borrowed all of these facts from as many places as I could, and that includes the picture on the top half of the page and what they said there. Now, they estimate the size of the ark using the 20.5 Egyptian Babylonian cubit. And that may, I may have had my facts wrong the other week, that may be the size that they used at AIG as well when they built that big colossal ark there. But at any rate, the one point I do want to make is that there were only, I don't have that statistic with me. Let's see. Yeah, okay. It could carry an estimated 125,000 sheep-sized animals. The biggest that the average dinosaur was, speaking of dinosaurs, and yes, he took dinosaurs aboard. If they were created on days 5 and 6, if they were part of the original kinds, They were part of the animal menagerie that Noah took onto the ark. Okay? There were dinosaurs on the earth. We have their bones. We have their boneyards, where millions and billions of them have been unearthed, many extricated and put into museums. So we know that they were real. So if they were real, they went on the ark. And we are told that about 125,000 sheep-sized animals, which is modestly the average size of the typical dinosaur, between sheep-sized and buffalo size, or bison size, somewhere in there. That's not terrifically huge. The buffalo or a bison stands at the top of his hump. He's about 6 feet. I better go up a little bit because I'm not 6 feet. There was plenty of room for 125,000 sheep-sized animals. Many, even most, were much smaller than that. Some the size of a chicken. Some were the size of a crab. Very small, very small. We believe that in order to increase the legitimacy of longevity and reproduction, once they got to dry land again, that Noah would have used the most productive pairs, God would have used, the most productive pairs to lead to Noah, and that is they would have been young adults or old juveniles who would become young adults very quickly. The idea was to be able to reproduce in about a year when the boat landed, okay, and procreate the new earth, the earth that they would come to at that time. The actual number of animals is closer to about 50,000 that would have been on the ark. There are 50 or 60 kinds of dinosaur animals, when that makes that total number about 120. So of this 50,000, 120 are dinosaurs. Okay? There were 2 of every kind of land animal and bird. There were roughly 50 to 60 kinds among the dinosaurs. I just said that. There was no space crunch due to the number of animals or the size of the ark, or the size of the animals for that matter. Young, smaller adults of each would likely have been chosen. Many or most of the animals could have hibernated or gone into some sort of suspended animation or extended periods of sleep. And there are some animals today that go into hibernation during the winter, such as bears and some smaller animals such as the groundhog, and because he's important on February 2nd, he has to come up to see a shadow or not. Then there are animals that can go into a suspended sleep. It's not necessarily suspended animation as we would consider it. It's not hibernation per se, but they can slow down their heart rates to incredibly low speeds, and that process is called torpor. You ever heard of a hummingbird? A hummingbird goes into the state of torpor. At rest, he just when he's sitting on a branch, his heartbeat is about 250 beats a minute. Okay? When he is active, flying around looking for nectar, it is about 1,200 or more beats a minute. But when he goes into torpor, this extended sleep, let's say it's not quite time to start going around pollinating yet, and so he's going to hide out in the nest that he's built, which is about that size, about an inch or so on the inside. Lays 4 eggs, they're tiny. And, but he goes into a state of torpor and lowers his heart rate to about 60 beats a minute, the same as yours, the same as mine. The height of the animals didn't matter. I estimated that each of the decks was about 15 feet apart. And you could have storage of 15 feet in height. The average giraffe today is 18 to 19 feet tall, but if you're taking a young adult or an older juvenile, he's not going to be that tall. Same thing with big animals. All of the big dinosaur bones that we know about are in mass graves or in large fields where they look like they were all dumped at one time in one place. Okay? They're the big ones. They're the ones that were 60 feet tall and 80 feet long and weigh 20 to 50 tons. They're the full-grown ones. They're the ones that had 1,500 years to live on the earth. Now, I personally believe, when I say something like that, you don't have to believe it. But I personally believe, since they were reptiles, the longer they lived, the bigger they got. Reptiles do that today. We do know that. I think the biggest I've ever seen for a copperhead snake is about 6.5 feet. And he was across, and not bother him at all. I've seen some pretty large black snakes. Now I've seen pictures of big snakes, 15, 20 feet long. I have not personally been introduced to those snakes, nor will I ever be. I can identify some, not very many. I have a basic rule of thumb. Kill it first, identify it later. And unless I know it's a black snake or something, a garter snake, I'll leave it alone. And low activity, and they weren't doing a whole lot of activity on the ark. Low activity, then, reduces the need for much feeding. Plus the fact they had storage space galore. Now, just because these animals could go into torpor or hibernation or go into suspended animation doesn't mean they had to. It just means they could have. All right? I'm going to do something no evolutionist will ever do. I'm going to tell you this. I don't know that for a fact. I suspect, I know it could happen, but I don't know that it did. Okay? Plus the fact that, as I said, they had all kinds of space available to carry food and supplies and lumber if they thought that far ahead or God told them to. Anything they would need when they immediately landed in the ark on Mount Ararat to begin a new world. A new world. I want to get into, in future weeks, a little bit about volcanology and earthquakes and seismology, that is, and a few other things, not in any kind of detail. Number one, I don't know any kind of real detail. And number two, we don't need a whole lot of detail. We just need the hint. We just need to be able to see that there are processes that God put into place, and they became super processes in that day. because it was necessary when God judged the earth. And he removed everything that man had tainted on the earth, which is the earth. And everything on the earth. The man was given a supervisory role over. Everything totally ruined. God sent his judgment upon the earth and humanity. And then created a new place in righteousness, as he had done in the first place, and as he